So this is our third cells video. We are going to be covering a cell's most important job, which is making or getting energy. We're going to be focusing on how plant cells make energy through the process of photosynthesis. This process converts carbon dioxide into a 6-carbon sugar. So we take the carbon from carbon dioxide, we mix it with hydrogen and oxygen from water, and we're able to produce glucose, a very simple sugar. Over on the right-hand side of the screen, you will see the two versions of the equation. Up top, you have the word equation where it says carbon dioxide and water combine with light and chlorophyll, and we get glucose and oxygen as our products. Down below, you will see I have the symbol equation, 6CO2 plus 6H2O. Light and chlorophyll combined make glucose, C6H12O6, and 6O2. You need to know both of those equations. Backwards and forwards, you need to understand the information that is conveyed in that image. So where is photosynthesis going to occur? That's going to be in the chloroplast. And I have this image up here because I have some parts of the chloroplast I need you to know. First, the most important thing that we need to talk about is the thylakoid. That's this disc-shaped structure right here. Those discs, the thylakoids, are arranged into stacks. Those stacks are called granum. That's a stack of thylakoids. That's really what we're going to focus on as we go through photosynthesis. But you might want to be familiar with the other structures, things like the stroma, which is the cytoplasm of the organelle of the chloroplast, the inner and outer membrane, the intermembrane space. All of those might be good to have in your mind, but the thylakoid is what we're going to spend most of our time on. Okay, this diagram is key for your understanding of photosynthesis. This is what we really want you to understand. You should be able to identify all of the parts of this diagram. So first, this is a chloroplast. That's what this white line here is. They're showing you a chloroplast. And then they also have these discs here in stacks. So as we talked about, these are thylakoids arranged into stacks called granum. Now let's talk about the meat of this diagram, the parts of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis actually occurs in 2 stages. There are 2 halves to that chemical reaction that we talked about before. The first half is called the light reactions. These require light in order to happen. The second half used to be called the light independent reactions. But we've kind of moved away from that name because the light independent reactions kind of got this idea that they happened at night and exclusively at night, but that's not really true. So we have started calling it the Calvin cycle after the person who kind of worked this out. So we have the light reactions and the Calvin cycle. Let's kind of break these down. So we're going to start with the light reactions here on the left. We're going to bring in water into our thylakoids. We're going to stimulate that with light, and the reaction's going to happen inside the thylakoid, and we're going to produce oxygen. The other things we're going to produce here are ATP. Remember, ATP is chemical energy. This is the energy form that the cell uses to do just about anything. Operate a protein, transport things, carry out chemical reactions. ATP is needed. Then we have NADPH. NADPH is similar to ATP. It kind of helps get reactions going. All right, now let's talk about the Calvin cycle. The Calvin cycle is going to bring in carbon dioxide. This is where the CO2 is used. We're going to go through the Calvin cycle in the stroma of the chloroplast, and we're going to make glucose, C6H12O6, and they've reduced it here to CH2O. We also make, in the Calvin cycle, some NAD plus and ADP NA phosphate group. You can see that the arrows direct those back into the light reactions. So this is where this center circle is going. The things that we produce in the Calvin cycle get utilized here in the light reactions, and then these things here that are produced by the light reactions get used in the Calvin cycle. That's because these are recyclable. So we can keep using these as long as we keep adding and subtracting certain parts. Like with ADP, we can add a phosphate group back onto ADP to get ATP. NADPH, we can add a proton on and we can get NADPH. All right, so this is all you need to kind of understand photosynthesis. I'm going to go more in depth in the next couple of slides, but this is what we need you to know. Okay, here's where the magic happens. Here we have a series of proteins in the membrane of the thylakoid. These proteins are the green pigments that you think of as chlorophyll. They are stimulated by sunlight, and they're going to exchange an electron between themselves in order to produce hydrogen ions. Those hydrogen ions then flow through this protein, a very special one called ATP synthase, in order to make ATP. This is also where we make NADPH. Like I said, there's a lot going on here. You do not really have to know that, but I want to expose you to this image so you can kind of get an idea of just what's going on at the thylakoid level. Okay, here's the Calvin cycle. Like I said, a lot going on here. You can kind of see our image up here in the corner. Okay, so we're bringing in carbon dioxide. We're going to go through several different orientations of carbon, lots of like exchanging and breaking off of carbons and rearranging them. And we're going to convert them into glucose down here. You can see where the ATP and NADPH get used, and you can see where that ADP is coming in, and the NAD plus is being made. And over here, you can see that too. But like I said, not really something you need to know at this point. Just kind of letting you see behind the curtain and see all the complexity that photosynthesis has. Okay, on this slide, I want to kind of compare photosynthesis and chemosynthesis. Photosynthesis is how plants and other photosynthesizers convert light energy into sugars. Chemosynthesis is a similar process where we have these tube worms on volcanic vents are able to take chemical energy or chemical heat and convert kind of the elements that they find in the water around the volcanic vent into sugars. Chemosynthesis uses chemicals, photosynthesis uses light. Both of them are producing sugars. Just kind of a way to compare and contrast different life forms on our planet. Okay, that was the end of photosynthesis. We don't have anything really we need to discuss other than that. Remember that this image is the thing you need to know. This is what you should be able to explain. This is the big takeaway.